Good evening, everyone. This is the April 6th meeting of the Penfield Trails Committee. It's a monthly meeting, and we have some attendees, and we have two guest speakers at the end of our agenda, which we'll introduce. Unfortunately, in my confusion, I brought the February minutes rather than the March minutes, so we don't have to look at the March minutes because we don't have them. So we'll have to approve them at the beginning of the May meeting, along with, hopefully I'll bring the April minutes to the May meeting. Well, what I do is, as we usually check the minutes, which we don't have today, I put up our monthly hike, which is this Saturday. And then we review the history of the Penfield Hollow, or where Daniel Penfield established his water rights and made plenty of money from the Irondequoit Creek coming down, dropping 90 feet in less than a mile and creating water power potentials. We will go to the pavilion in the middle of the green on the lower parking lot, and we will do this on April 9th, Saturday. We will have the hike signs out to direct you there to park. 10 a.m. Channing Philbrook Park, also known as Linear Park, and we'll direct you off of 441 to come down to the lower parking lot and meet us at the pavilion. We'll have a little history of the hollow, and then we'll decide one way or the other if we're going to go upstream or downstream to enjoy Irondequoit Creek.
Nels, just to confirm, because the agenda says 9 o'clock, it is 10 o'clock, the hike?
Good question. I've got it on my poster at 10 o'clock. Does anybody have a book note with them?
Nope.
All right, we'll nail this down. Then I'll redo my promotional.
Just not sure which one's right, so.
So is it going to be 9 or 10?
No, I just wondered if anybody had a book note with them.
In your email to the group, Nels, you had 9 a.m.
That's what's in the scenic track notes?
I don't have it on the notes. I'm just saying in the emails you sent, it did say 9 a.m.
Yeah, generally April is usually at 9 a.m.
All right, we're going to say my poster is wrong. 9 a.m. Saturday, April 9th. Lower parking lot, Channing Philbrook Park. 9.
How do you access that?
You know where the Hunt's Realty Yellow House is off of 441?
On the left-hand side as you're heading toward the...
No, you're heading uphill toward the Four Corners eastbound.
Yes, I'll just say yes.
There'll be a hike sign. There's a turnout and a hike sign. It's a tough left-handed turn, but an easy right-handed turn.
That's a terrible turn.
Yeah, the April hike is usually been at 9 o'clock.
What's that?
Right, private conversation going on here.
Eileen, I got your right here.
I know my name.
Okay.
Could I have all participants put their mics in front of them, please?
Okay, 9 a.m. this Saturday. Sorry for the confusion. All right, review results from the March 12th indoor hike, which we had right here at the Penfield Auditorium. We had 21 attendees. We had 4 trail groups expo their wares and their hiking schedules, and it ran from 10 a.m. to noon, and the presentation was basically about biological conservation moves that have been made since the 1900s, and featuring the concept of drawdown, getting CO2 out of the atmosphere. Also, Richard Attenborough and half-Earth concept from E.O. Wilson, America's most prestigious biologist. And the ideas are simple about half Earth. If we can get half of the Earth's habitat rewilded and the humans live in the other half, farming and dwelling. And this is in order to preserve natural habitat and natural species and the health of the general planetary systems. And it could be done if we started consolidating national parks and wild grasslands and extending parks locally to meet other parks, so we have long corridors of natural habitat rewilded and reestablished. Essentially, that was the topic. So that 6 of my staff was there and 20 people attended. Another announcement, 2 announcements for February. This comes from Earth Arbor Day community event, April 23rd. Andy, that's a Saturday?
Yep.
At Rothfuss Park, 10:30 to 12:30, and we have flyers out on it. It's Conservation Day at Rothfuss Park on 5 Mile Line Road. And we have tree seedlings to be had if you show up there. 10:30, Saturday. It's a community event, April 23rd, 10:30 to 12:30, Rothfuss Park, 5 Mile Line Road. And the conservation group will be there to advise you on getting a species and planting it and why it's valuable.
Nels, the Trails Committee was asked to be a part of that
Yes.
event. So that's why I listed it under the staffing. So my thought was, we have a Penfield Recreation 10 by 10 tent. We can set that up if members of the Trails Committee are able to attend. We'd have a table there with all the information and kind of just be able to speak to the public when they come to the event from 10:30 to 12:30.
I would certainly
Somebody will be there.
reinforce that experience, right? Yes.
All right, so I'll let them know for sure that we will have the Trails Committee there
Right.
with members to be able to discuss.
It's sponsored by our Penfield Conservation Board. So it is a Earth Arbor Day community event, Saturday the 23rd of April, 10:30, Rothfuss Park on 5 Mile Line Road. The next event in April is a week from that event, which is April 30th, and this is a PennRec event called Six-Legged Guided Hike. It's at Sherwood Fields Park out on 441 in East Penfield. 10 a.m., Saturday, April 30th. Meet in the parking lot. And dogs must be leashed. This is an interface between people that like to do dog walks in Sherwood, which is semi-ideal for dog walking and their owners, and interfacing with hikers and the general etiquette that needs to be promoted for having both dogs and their owners enjoying the park as well as hikers. So that would be an event via PennRec. You can register on PennRec online or our famous number, 340-8655, extension 0. So that's the 30th, Conservation Day with trees on the 23rd at Rothfuss Park, and then our hike at 9 a.m. this Saturday at Channing Philbrook Linear Park, Lower Pavilion parking. Eagle Scout projects, Tim and Andrew.
So Tim and I, just as an update, we've heard from 5 potential Eagle Scout projects. 4 of them we've met with individually. They're all planning to start as soon as the ground gets a little bit loose. As many of them we've kind of worked with to build kiosks. So one is Thomas Moore, and he's looking to build a new kiosk at Honey Creek, which is the trail entrance at 5 Mile Line. So that needs one in general, as we haven't had one there. Nick Vessa is looking to build a footbridge at 4 Mile Creek Trail. Matthew Deedy is refurbishing and building a new Harris Whalen upper kiosk. And Tim and I met with him last week on Thursday to pick out a spot. So he's basically, a month or two away from just being able to go out there and get that one done. So that one's getting pretty close to being able to kind of have the project actually started. And then we've just met with Eli Syracusa, who's looking to possibly build a new kiosk at Shadow Pines property. Again, most of these are looking to scheduled to be done in spring of 2022. And the only one so far, Nick Vessa from our previous committee meeting, he has been approved for $144 of financial aid from the Trails Committee. So thank you, Trails Committee, for approving that for Nick.
That's a very full menu considering what we had months ago,
Yep.
or even last year. That's terrific. And we hope that it all gets followed up on for our own trails benefit as well. Immediate trails need report. Anybody out there that saw something that's blocking the trail or needs attention?
Since it's so early in the month, we haven't had our staff go out and walk the trails for the month of April yet, but that'll happen the next week and a half probably. And an update on the Rofus Park Outer Loop Trail. It's the big loop trail. We are starting construction on 3 large rectangle fields Monday on the east side. So they're going to shut down half of that trail. So there's big construction going on, and we don't want people walking around through the construction site. So,
That should be fenced.
yeah, it'll
So
be
it'll
fenced off with signs.
Thank you, Tim. Conservation Board,
Yeah, their meeting was last night. They reviewed 3 projects and agreed that they didn't have any interest in further review on those. That was at the corner of Atlantic and Scribner, the Taco Bell on Empire, and the Verizon Tower at the fire department. Also, they spent a long time talking about April 23rd. Our parks foreman is involved with that, and he can give you a little bit of update. We're also planning to do a red maple grove, which he's going to lay out for the Conservation Board, and they're going to plant 4, I don't know, what kind of trees are you planting on the trail?
So along the trail there on the north side of Rofus Park off that stone parking lot, we plan on, we're still discussing if we're going to do 2 red maples or 2 white pines, or I think we're looking more towards 4 red maples. And then in between those, we're going to, with the seedling giveaway, we're going to plant a grove of maybe 20 to 25 red maples in between those 4 larger trees. So hopefully that will delineate it from getting mowed down, and we can add to that in the future for future plantings and seedlings. So,
and parenthetically to add, the red maple by vote of elementary school kids a few years back is the official Penfield tree. Now we need to work on the town bird. Blue heron's my vote. Trailhead fitness report, again, the only one I have is, and it's semi-answered if we get a nice kiosk up at 5 Mile Line Road entrance to Honey Creek, and just get Honey Creek signage back in order again, rather than the temporary thing I have up there now. Anyone else on trailheads? Ed, embedded in the wrong set of minutes is your 4 easements for February. Do you need to specifically add some more?
Well, last month at a town board meeting, I addressed the whole town board, and I'll let our supervisor talk about any updates that she might have had since our conversation.
Thank you, Ed. Actually, I do not have updates for you this time. I will have them for you next time. As far as the 25 Willow Pond Way, the one you mentioned, we have a walk. We're going to do that now that the weather has broken. We hope it won't snow again. So as soon as it dries out just a little bit more, we'll be walking that easement, or we'll be walking that property and seeing what, if anything, we can do.
Can you tell me who's going to accompany you on that hike from the town?
I'm not sure it's going to be me, but it'll definitely be Eric Tate and Tim Masterton
Yep, I'll be there.
from our Parks Department.
Thank you.
Although I would like to go.
Some residents from the home would like to accompany that walk, so if we can pin down a time and let Legacy know sometime in the future when it's going to be scheduled.
So perfect. I'll let Eric know that he should contact you.
Okay, that would be
Actually,
great.
Tim is here, so Tim can contact you.
Yep.
Thank you. Again, I'm going to emphasize this month we have 2 extra promotions beyond the Saturday hike at Channing Philbrook Park. Again, Rofus Park Conservation Arbor Day, the 23rd, off of 5 Mile Line Road, April 23rd. Pick up a tree, meet the conservation people, enjoy the community day there, 10:30. And then the 30th out at Sherwood Fields, out at 441 next to the 441 Fire Hall, dog and hiker etiquette interface day and romp in Sherwood Fields, which is ideal for the dog and the dog on the leash with the owner. One of the best spots, somewhat wide open for them to enjoy themselves. We have, this is a rarity and an enjoyable richness to today's program. We have 2 guest speakers to address us today. Megan Meyer had some thoughts after coming to the indoor hike last month about, well, the general things we can do locally right here in our own community to help out the idea of both drawdown and half-earth concepts, even very locally in our own parks, open spaces, and yards. Megan?
Thank you very much, Megan Meyer. And I'm here on behalf of Healthy Yards Monroe County. We were really excited to, hear that your indoor hike was on sustainability. And it would have, we were thinking that it might be nice if we were to do this again, that we would actually have some of those other Trails Committee members coming up to share a little bit more publicly what they are doing sustainably locally in their own towns. We had private conversations afterwards with the Friends of Webster Trails, and I was very interested in hearing more about the Victor hiking trails and how they were forging new pathways through the town so that the town was more walkable. So those are just a few things that I was thinking to add to that program. And the other thing, Paul Hawken, who wrote Drawdown, has a new book called Regeneration, which is really quite interesting. And he has gone beyond what he has stated in Drawdown, which might be interesting for the Penfield Trails Committee as well as our Conservation Committee to look over. The other big name after E.O. Wilson is Douglas Tallamy, who wrote the book Nature's Best Hope, and he is an entomologist who teaches at the University of Delaware, and he has great ideas for what we can do in our own backyards. So we can bring it home instead of talking about what's happening from around the world. Let's bring it back home to our own parks and our own residents. So those are just a few things that I thought might be kind of fun if we were to do next year's indoor hike, if you wanted to continue on sustainability, which we absolutely need with our climate change that we're going to be dealing with. The other topic I wanted to address was Eagle Scout projects. And it's wonderful that we have so many Eagle Scouts that want to do so many wonderful things for our town. I have a couple of Eagle Scouts that I have worked with a different program that have, we have one this year that is going to be removing invasives on a property and planting natives, as well as doing some trail work with a whole crew of his younger Eagle Scouts as well as his contemporaries. So what if we were to kind of encourage these scouts to do more than just build kiosks and plant bridges? That would really improve the our town parks. One in particular, the Harris Whalen Park, is being infested with garlic mustard. And I'm sure some of our other parks have other things that are growing in them that we could certainly address. And then the other idea, which is one thing that Penfield the Friends of Webster Trails do, they lead hikes in collaboration with someone who is a naturalist that actually teaches people about the local flora and fauna within those particular parks, maybe a little bit about the history of that particular park, which would actually connect our residents to those parks. And maybe we could even encourage them to help with some of the projects that we might want to have them collaborate with, which is what the Friends of Webster Trails are doing. And then for our Parks and Rec, why not some programs on conservation? And again, some of these issues for not only our adults, but also our children. I know you have a wonderful children's program during the summer. If we were to plant a pollinator garden on that property somewhere and then talk to them about the importance of diversity in pollinators, wouldn't that be cool? So I thank you for allowing me to share that.
No, you have an idea of a very integrated conservation sustainability curriculum in and outside of the school system. It could be integrated community-wise. I understand. And even including natural history as well as regular history if we're doing a hike. Thank you, Megan.
I want to thank Megan for coming and bringing ideas to the table. It's always nice to hear fresh ideas, and really thank you for your participation.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, you're not coming through very loud, Marie.
Sorry.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for...
Well, the indoor hike produced some legs, and I like that. All right. Next up, to address the committee and go on our recorded TV, somebody wanted by the name of Don Hoyler, and he's got some
information and proposals.
Concepts and proposals on
It's okay.
kiosks, trail guidance, and kiosks. Go ahead, Don.
Thank you. So my name is Don Hoyler. I'm a 25-year Penfield resident. My wife and I hike frequently, pretty much all of these trails, not just Penfield, but Webster, Monroe County, in the area. And I kind of noticed recently that the kiosks at many of the Penfield trailheads, I felt like they could use a little help, a little bit of an upgrade. And we kind of really brought it home. I'm noticing, I think they've done a really nice job in Webster recently, and they've really upped their game, sort of, and put out some really, some really useful information on their kiosks. So I called the Trails Committee just to see if maybe there was something I could suggest or offer to help, and I think I talked to Tim, who I've met before. And Tim commented on, for one, the Eagle project, so that's great news, and that's very encouraging. But in terms of the information that's presented on the kiosks, sort of a question for you folks, who controls that, what information gets posted. And I had some ideas that I wrote down, because I like to try to bring solutions, not just, issues, regarding some information that I think would be appropriate and useful and value add, right? To me, there's a target audience, all these people hiking those trails, there's a level of interest, right? And, certainly things like this tree planting event and, the six-legged hike, I don't know how people know about all those things, and there's a lot of people hiking. It would seem like, it would be a good way to make that information available, and kind of promote it. And then likewise, extend that to organizations outside of the town who are appropriate. And so that's kind of what this proposal is. I looked at Shadow Pines and G-Rock, the off-road cycling, cross-country skiing organization, now Frisbee Golf, CPG. Those are all people or organizations that have input into the use of those areas, and maybe it would be a good place for them to be able to put up informational. I kind of separated between informational and events. And just wondering, what your thoughts are, how that's controlled, if there's any, interest in something like that.
Well, certainly the coordination of trying to evaluate and standardize or rebuild our kiosk system, and our other priority integrated with that is to get the right signage up once the kiosk is in place.
Right.
So you're very timely stimulus here.
Okay.
As we try and reevaluate our whole kiosk trailhead effectiveness.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly understand you want to be really careful in what gets put up there, right? And I started, I did this over lunch, so I didn't put a lot of time into it, but, nothing political, no commercial advertising were two things that jumped out at me. But, as long as the Trails Committee maintained oversight and decision-making power as to what went up, and you limited what was there to things that were relevant, and it would be trailhead by trailhead, right? And fishing at Channing Philbrick Park or at LaSalle's Landing, dog walking etiquette, dog walking groups or something at Sherwood, whatever. So they would be tailored. Rothfuss could probably have sports organizations. Else could have canoeing, and each one would be unique, but relevant to that particular trailhead. That's what I had in mind.
Point of clarification, what is CPG?
Color Penfield green.
Okay.
So stuff that Megan's talking about, planting native, native plants, for example, if they're going to do that at Shadow Pines, or there's some effort to bring kids to look at all the tulip trees, right? So, that's an organization that's relevant to Shadow Pines. That's really just looking for the relevance on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I mean, I can say it, I know it's been our focus, as you've heard the kiosks here.
Right.
Guiding more Eagle Scouts towards that, as some of the kiosks, when Tim and I went through the fall and kind of did the same thing and realized, okay, these need to be refurbished.
Right.
A lot of those displays really are screwed right in. So to be able to ask someone to go in there
Right.
and change that is difficult. So what we've done with trying to refurbish and rebuild is mention that to the scouts to say, hey, let's put in a movable display. And I believe at the last 2 or 3 Trails Committee meetings, one of the topics has been, I'm okay.
Okay. So to that point, I took a couple pictures of how they've done that so that
That's
they
wonderful.
are. Yeah.
So, and one of our talks, so this is perfect timing, is to talk about what's that standard.
Right.
We have this amount of room on all of each of the trail kiosks, what information do we want to put in there? So I think
Yeah.
a collaboration would be wonderful
Yeah.
and perfect timing for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, something like events, I said, you let somebody put up and advertise an event, they have 3 days to take it down. And if you don't take it down, you lose your rights, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you limit it to one page, and you limit it to mission statements and, who we are and contact information. Maybe even half sheets or whatever.
If
Because,
nothing,
room is a premium, for sure.
and if nothing else, we ought to be putting up our own events.
Well,
I totally agree.
Never even occurred to me that
And at the last couple Trails Committees, we've talked about it, but I guess, my question is even, who is managing that? Is it supposed to be parks? Is it supposed to be trails? Is it recreation? We've kind of discussed it somewhat at the Trails Committee level, but is that a Trails Committee thing that's been done in the past?
Yes, but people who aren't with the committee anymore.
Okay.
Dick Adamus took Yeah, but it's static, though. You can't get into it really easy. It's all
Yeah,
screwed in, otherwise it would be gone.
I think more just, I'm not saying, who's responsible. I'm saying maybe that's more of the discussion is if it's been something that the Trails Committee has done in the past, but we also see maybe now that the Recreation and Parks Department can assist with that. Maybe we come up with some standard things like we've talked about, say these are the rules, and then.
Vandalism on Honey Creek, they always end up in the creek.
The whole kiosks do,
Yeah.
not just the stuff on them.
Signs, those nice signs, carved signs are
Yeah,
gone.
that might be something nice that comes out of this is just, who's in control of that, from the Trails Committee town side of things that we can work on.
Right. If there's any hiking area that would benefit from this true coordination, physical results, it would be the Honey Creek
Jenny has
Trail.
always kept maps in the Honey Creek kiosk while they were there.
Yeah, and we don't want the vandals to claim victory after 15 years. So they seem to be almost gone, but they did their work there. It made us work after their work. So, yeah, Honey Creek coordination. If the kiosk and the signage go up, that we make sure that follow-up of signage that makes sense too.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm pretty plugged in, and I didn't, I find it hard to see where these types of events are. So at a minimum, I think that would be good. Hikes of the month, right? Because it's the target audience.
No,
Sort
it
of the
can't.
key is the ability to quickly throw them into the,
Totally, yeah. I think we got to look at all of that stuff, and then once we are steering Eagle Scouts to be able to do that, as Tim and I noticed, hey, who is responsible for putting this in? So that's why we brought it to the attention of Trails, and I'm all for just trying to figure out who's responsible, who can help. Maybe all of us do it, but some of the key information like events, obviously the rec department, we can assist with updating those types of things. But that standard information of the rules, policies, I think is important for all of us to decide kind of who's going to put that up.
Well, another example is, again, this community event at Ruffus Park. It's conservation biology, but also the Conservation Department is handing out trees again. And these programs do come back. The last 2 years has been program unfriendly in terms of promotion as well. So the idea that we come out on this day and talk some more synergy on green events. Sustainable green events in Penfield and how they can thematically spread around. And we can all be in touch with each other when we're working on something like this, not sitting in isolation.
Okay. Well, thank you, and if there's anything I can do.
Thank you, Don.
I'm more than happy.
Don, I'll take a copy if you have an extra.
I do.
Thank you.
So I'm looking forward to having a conversation about this at our upcoming meetings.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you bet.
All right, we thank our two guest speakers for their contributions directly to the topic of greening, sustaining locally, Megan and Don. Any other open field comments? We're open for anything, if you have it.
Just an observation for former committee members. Jenny Wilderdink, I believe, is going to move into 40 Willow Pond Way, so I'll have a direct contact with her daily, probably. And she has a vast amount of knowledge on what went on with it, because she was one of the founding members of the Trails Committee, so I will look forward to some more discussions from her and being able to share that with the committee.
Yes, Jenny and a group of like-minded friends got this whole thing, the Penfield Trails Committee, started, advised by Victor Trails Committee in 1996. Anyone else on the open floor?
A bench for Freitas in Shadow Pines? Dick Freitas bench in Shadow Pines? We were going to do that. Remember?
Who's building that? Okay,
We discussed it. That's as far as it went.
all right. So we need somebody to build it.
Boy Scouts. Except usually you need something that's really fastened into the ground so they can't, so the vandals can't move it.
Supposed to be cemented in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we've had, especially during the COVID time, Tim and I had a lot of donations that came from the outside for benches, and we actually steered them towards a website, and it was, I mean, you can maybe speak to the material better than I can.
Yeah, it's kind of like not a pressed plywood. It's more of a kind of like a deck board that you would use for like docks and stuff like that. So it's pretty weather resistant. I think one of the most recent ones was out at Sherwood Fields in the far corner. It was a donation from two children to their parents for their 40th anniversary, I believe it was.
Look at you.
Yeah, remembering. So yeah, it's stuff like that we try to steer people to because it's more uniform. We can't always count on Boy Scouts, and in my opinion, a Boy Scout project building one bench isn't good enough for an Eagle Scout project, but it's good for just a service project as far as that goes. So
Yeah, we've had probably 4 or 5 over the last couple of years that
Yep.
Tim's helped put into the ground. I don't think any were concreted in, they're all
Nope.
staked in.
Yep, and as far as like the Shadow Pines properties goes, we've had one Boy Scout come to us for benches and stuff like that, but with the ongoing, not development of it, the plan, we always tell them that they will be, eventually, they could be moved in the future, so we try not to concrete them in. We usually stake them down, that kind of stuff. Something that deters vandalism and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as a bench for Mr. Freitas, that would be up to whoever wants to either donate the money. That's something that the Trails Committee pitch in themselves to do, kind of something like that, if you're that interested in doing that for him.
Could I ask a question, please? I don't want to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a new member, as everybody knows, so I don't know exactly how it all works, but if I had not been an acquaintance of Megan's, I would not have known about this concept of being able to buy a pail, get a pail for $5 and put your things into it, your rubbish, your vegetables and your trimmings or whatever. I wouldn't have known that. So my question is, how do we communicate all of this? Do we just stay within ourselves, or do we try to let other people in the town know that this is something that's available? That's question number one. I also wonder what we're doing with the Girl Scout troops here in Penfield. Are the senior troops, are they involved in? I know they don't have a badge like an Eagle Scout, but
They do. It's called the Gold
Award.
Yeah, the Gold Award, yes.
So
which is their equivalent to an Eagle Scout project.
do you use
Yep, and it's usually, we don't solicit it, but they usually come to us for ideas. Yeah, they've been recently contacting the Parks Department and the Rec Department for ideas, and our biggest need that we came up with was the kiosk, so we've been steering them towards that. We've had other, in the past, I've had a couple Girl Scouts going for their gold project by installing some of those doggy waste baskets at certain parks, and so we've had to have interest from the Girl Scouts.
Yeah,
Yes.
we had a project last year that was bee houses at Rothfuss Park where they but they also put in a lot of the information that went around it. So that's a really nice project that happened last year at Rothfuss that we were able to work with our Girl Scout.
And as far as any Scout project, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or Scouts in general, if they come to us with an idea, we try to run with their own personal idea, but if they come to us looking for ideas, that's when we try to come up with stuff ourselves that we think that needs, not priority, but top of the list type deal, so.
There's also quite a few youth working with the Penfield Victory Garden. So in addition to working with the Trails Committee, there are people working with the garden.
The other issue that I found I am going to be attending, and unfortunately it's going to be a conflict with our day at Rothfuss Park, but it's the Climate Accelerator Group, is that what it's called? Has their annual seminar conference on Saturday, April 24th. And I did sign up for that. It's an all-day event. That is virtual, so I'll be doing it at home, but nevertheless, it goes right till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But I don't know how people learn about these things unless you're a friend of Megan's. I don't know if that's a role that we play.
We broke the barrier a bit by having Megan come to this meeting.
Yes, I appreciate that.
But not only speaking about sustainability and community events, but the fact that there is an organization right here in Penfield that's willing to prod us on.
Good.
So if you're out there in Penfield and you look at us as a vehicle to get your word out, get in touch with us at PenRec, Penfield Trails, and let us know if you would like to also make us and the community aware of your program. It's a good idea.
You can go.
And same thing with the kiosk, the information that Don's brought with us. Hopefully that'll start getting the word out more for more information. That's just been a struggle for the whole town, trying to get everybody on board with a lot of information and how to get the information and things like that. So obviously Don came in with great ideas for that, and hopefully that would be a little stepping stone for information.
But do events like that, would they get into the PenRec flyer that goes out, gets sent out to everybody? Or?
It depends on the event. It depends on the planning. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but we're just wrapping up our summer brochure now. So typically we have to know events 3 to 4 months in advance of when they actually happen, if not more, especially with our winter spring brochure, because we combine those two seasons. We actually start planning that back in October of the previous year. So some of these events and programs are more pop-up type. So we highly recommend checking out the Town of Penfield's social media website, the Penfield Rec Department's social media and website, as we've really, and I know Marie and the rest of the board has made a really big push to open up more communication and channels like that. I know a lot of more useful information is going up on those areas, but a lot of the programs that go over conservation, it might not be those specific ones, but we do offer those types of programs at the rec department. We have a wonderful senior daytime education at recreation programs that happen multiple times every day, whether it be through Zoom or in person, and they cover a whole wide variety of things, and some of this stuff is included.
So I would argue too that, you're asking the $64,000 question. How do we get the information out to people, and how do we make sure they receive it, right?
Yes, you're right.
So to Andy's point, we really do try to make a concerted effort to share out information. One of the things that we're also looking at, because we realize there are people that are not on social media and aren't necessarily on the computer a whole lot, quite honestly. So we would like to install some digital signboards, perhaps at the community center, where we can have information on a loop so that people can see that. And I'd like to think that we can get those up and running sooner rather than later. But that is something that we're looking at in our long-range communication plan.
In an effort to cross-promote, for instance, our guided hike this Saturday at 9 a.m., Channing Philbrook Park, we can also have the tree planting event and the six-legged hike cross-promoted there. And then when we have the conservation meeting at Rothfuss Park, we can promote things like the six-legged hike. And so my suggestion would be, if there's any green groups or people who want to get in, talk about sustainability and green stuff in Penfield, like we did sort of at the indoor hike, come to the tree planting event on the 23rd, where we can discuss it further. Anyone else on the open floor?
Maybe just a welcome to our Cub Scouts. Hope you guys have enjoyed this.
Yes, and scouting and curriculum, especially in green sustainability. Mr. E.O. Wilson thinks we got to get to your generation instead of the adults. So look up the thing called the Half Earth Project, kids. Yep. Well, without any further ado, we will meet May 4th is our next meeting, and I'll have 2 committee meetings. I'll have the minutes from March and the minutes from this meeting to approve. My error. So come to those events that we promoted this month, the 23rd and the 30th, for community events promoted by the Trails Committee, PennRec, and Parks Department. And we'll see you out there. We can discuss what we discussed here today. For out there in the community, us, we get a loop together. There's no secrets. So without further ado, we've had a meeting. You're adjourned.
Now, what was this bucket thing that you mentioned?